The TaxSlayer Pro demo main menu has several options. So you'll see under Welcome to TaxSlayer Pro demo, you can label this to say whatever you want. So it could be Welcome to ABC Tax Company. Under that, there's a message center, which is where we relay all important information to our tax preparers throughout the tax season. We know that you're probably not going to look at your email every single day, but you likely will be looking at your tax software. So any important information, we relay that through the message center. Next to that is rejected clients. This is a quick, easy way to access any rejected returns. It tells you what's wrong with the return. You can quickly fix it and then resubmit the return. Underneath is the Start New 2018 tax return. This is where you'll start a new tax return, which I will do in a moment. Import app user. This is for our mobile app, which you can rebrand. Now, if you use import app user, this is for our non-branded generic Taxes to Go mobile app, which you can get from the App Store or Google Play App Store as well. It's just called Taxes to Go. So if you'd like to take a look at that, you can just type in Taxes to Go, pull up the generic version, run through the entire app, and it will give you a unique code, which you can put into import app user. Underneath that is client search. Client search is your entire client list. So if you'd like to run reports based on your client list, search for an individual client, you can do that there. Review returns. If you have multiple preparers, you can limit access to what they can or cannot do. E-filing returns is something you can limit. So if you do not want your preparers e-filing returns, they can mark it for review, and the office manager or business owner can review those returns and then submit them from there. Configuration, this is how you set up your office. You do it one time and it's pretty much done year after year, unless you need to edit fees, preparers, or anything that you'd like to make a change on. You would do that in configuration, but generally speaking, you set it up one time. We do have reports based on what you've done inside of the tax software. So whether it's an acknowledgement, whether it's accepted, rejected returns, bank reports, if something's been funded by your bank products. We have several different types of reports you can run inside of the software itself. Transmissions, this is where you'll know if any returns you've e-filed have been successfully submitted to the IRS, and any sort of reports that go along with e-filed returns. Import desktop returns, this is just a conversion from, if you are changing from our TaxSlayer Pro desktop, you can convert and import all of your returns from that specifically. So let's go into, now we'll start a tax return. So I'm going to go back up to Start New 2018 tax return. I'll then hit Select. So I'll type in a Social Security number. And hit Start New Return. It'll bring me to the filing status question. It gives you options for single, filing joint, filing separate, head of household, which is what we're going to do today. So I can click head of household. If you're unsure of the filing status, there is a filing status wizard. You can select that and it asks you some questions and it helps determine the best filing status for your customer. So I've chosen head of household. Now I will continue to proceed. Next, it takes us to personal information. So I will then go through this page and type the taxpayer's personal information. So I will do a test return. It's already pre-filled the Social Security number that I entered earlier. Now I'm going to choose the date of birth. Put in an occupation. Now there's several checkboxes you can select depending on the situation. I'm just going to do a pretty easy one for us today, but there are some other situations, like if you want to donate to the presidential campaign, maybe this is a student, you're full-time, or you're dependent on somebody else's return. So you have several options there. I will put in the address for the taxpayer. I will type in the zip code and it will automatically pre-populate the city and state. Then I will put in a number for the taxpayer. After I've filled in all the information, I will click Continue to Save, and it'll take me to the next area. And it notices since I am a Georgia return, and it wants to know if my tax return differed from last year. This is somebody I did a return for last year. I'll type in an email address here. This way we can email somebody a copy of the return later if they would prefer an electronic PDF instead of a physical copy. Next, it takes me to the dependent or qualified person. So we're going to enter dependent. So I will say, yes, I do want to enter a dependent. Then we'll type in the dependent's name. So once you tab or cursor over to the last name, it pre-populates the last name with the taxpayer's last name. Now you can delete and override this and change it if the dependent's last name is different, but if it's the same, it just saves you keystrokes so you can move on to the date of birth. I will select the date of birth, the dependent's social security number, scroll down, a few questions for the dependent. I'll say yes, this was a citizen, and the relationship, this is my daughter. It asks how many months was with the taxpayer, defaults to all 12 for the full year. I will say in this example that it is all 12 months. Then again, a few more checkboxes just like in the personal information. If it's disabled, not your dependent, depending on your situation, it could be something other than just a regular dependent. But just to keep it simple, we're going to say this is a regular dependent on our tax return. I'll continue to save. Now after you save one, if you have more, there is an add button here at the top. So I can enter as many dependents as I want. There is no limitation to that. If I need to edit, there is a little pencil button here that allows me to edit the dependent, or if I wanted to delete the dependent, there's a little trash can button here to delete. But for this, again, this is going to be a simple one dependent return, so I'll continue to save. Next, it takes you then into the federal section of the tax return. So here's where your options are for navigation. Really depends on how you want to use the software. So we have a guide me, which asks you question and answer, guide you through the entire tax return. So some preparers may be not as seasoned, they don't know what they're doing. They may want an interview guide or a wizard to guide them through the whole process. Somebody who's a little more seasoned, they would want to enter myself. This will take you to a menu to actually just go ahead and input the data. It's not going to ask you any questions. Now, if you are a business owner or a manager and you hire a new preparer that maybe doesn't really know as much about taxes as you would like, you don't want them to have access to enter myself, you can force them to only see guide me so they don't have two options. So there's some flexibility if you need somebody to have a little more training before they go on to the next process. But I'm just going to do enter myself. It'll take me directly to the income menu. Now you'll notice there's several different types of income. It lists here and next to it all of these scheduled forms, so you know exactly what you're looking for. So if I know that, hey, I'm going to enter a W-2, right there at the top, wages and salaries, form W-2. So I can simply click begin, and it brings me to an actual form that looks like a W-2. I'll just type in, I'll scroll down here to the EIN, type in the EIN number. Now this is an EIN that has been used before. Now the software saves all of our EINs so it can pre-populate your employers, again, saving you keystrokes because we want you to get through the return as fast as possible. I'll scroll down to the line 1. I'll type in, let's say 25,000. I'll hit the tab and it pre-populates box 3, 5, 4, and 6 automatically based on the tax tables. And then box 2, I'll enter the tax withheld. Now, if for some reason box 3, 5, 4, and 6 are different, I can override these. So if there was a 401k contribution or cash tips, these numbers may be different, so you can adjust them from there if you'd like. But for this, again, I'm keeping it simple. I'm just going to keep it the way it is and scroll down to the state information. So we're doing a Georgia return. I will select Georgia. Put in a state EIN. So 16 state wages pre-populate automatically from federal. So all I have to do is put in the state tax paid. So from here, I will continue to save. So I'm finished with my first W-2. Now, if I have additional W-2s, I can add another W-2 wage statement. I can still edit with the pencil, or I can delete with the trash can, just like in our dependent area. But I'm going to say this is our one and only W-2. And if you notice on the right here, our AGI amount, federal refund, and Georgia refund amount has now been populated. We do have a refund calculator here on the right that follows you around the entire tax return so you know how your tax return is being affected. I will then continue to save out of the W-2 wage statement, and it brings me right back to the income menu where we were just a moment ago. So if I'm done with the income, if this is my only type of income, I can either scroll down and I can click continue, or if you noticed on the left here, we have several menu options. So we're in the federal section, as you can see, that's highlighted now inside of the income menu, and below that there's now an attachment for the W-2 wage statement. So if I'm in any other part of the tax return and I want to go back to the W-2, I can just simply click right here on W-2 wage statement and it takes me back to where we were earlier. Or if I'm in the income menu and I want to go to deductions, as you can see, that's the very next section. I can scroll down, hit continue, it will take me to deductions. Or if I want to jump around inside the tax return, I can simply click over here on the left side, deductions, and it takes me to the deductions menu. So you can allow the program to continue to the next appropriate fields, or you can skip around. If you know exactly where you want to go, you have the flexibility to do either or. So again, this is a very simple tax return, head of household, one W-2, one dependent. We're basically done from here. So the next portion that we'll need to do is the health insurance for 2018. So it'll ask you, did you or your family have health insurance? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to keep this pretty simple and say that we were covered all year round. Continue. We did not get it through the marketplace. Continue. Now it pre-populates the taxpayer and the dependent. If there's anybody else who is covered, you can add a household member. Just going to keep it simple again and say these are the only two people who were covered. So I will continue to save and progress as well. So months insured. Was your entire household qualified all year? Yes, we were. Continue to save. Now you're done with the federal section of the tax return. So it automatically takes you to the state where it sees that you were a Georgia state resident based on your personal information and the W-2 information. It automatically created a state return for you. Now, if this was not quite a simple a return, maybe there's some credits that I want to add into the state return, I could edit by clicking the pencil here. It's going to calculate the Georgia state return, bring me to the Georgia state return menu. So again, if I had some credits, there is a credit section here, different payments maybe that I made or itemized deductions that I want to try to take for the state return itself, I can do so. But again, being a simple return, we're just going to keep it the way it is. I'm going to exit the Georgia return. I'm going to continue, and it will take me now to calculating the summary itself. So in my configuration here, I defaulted the summary page to show me the actual 1040 form. So there is a bit of flexibility. Some people may really like that, some may not. So we have an option for a summary view. You can default to make it look like the summary, so I will click that. I can toggle between back and forth. So the summary is going to show details of the 1040, which looks just like our menus, or each schedule. Again, looking just like our menus where you made the entries itself. So that could be easier for some, but personally I like the 1040 view. You'll also see the refund calculator has now shifted to the top, giving us more real estate for the 1040 form itself. And if I scroll down, this looks just like the printed piece of paper. And if you notice, some of these are blue, and that's highlighted, letting you know that you can actually click on and work specifically off of this form. So you see on line 1, that's where the W-2 input was made for the income there. So I will go and click on line 1. Now we're right back to that W-2 wage statement where we were earlier. So if you notice something's off, whether it's in the summary view or the 1040 view, you can easily, from the summary area, just click on that line. It takes you right back to that point of entry so you can edit the tax return itself. But if everything looks good, I can either continue on, or if you go back over to the menus on the left, I can go straight over to print that return or e-file the return. I'll click continue to save here to progress to the next section of the tax return. Now you'll notice we're doing a simple head of household return, one W-2, one dependent. So usually I get asked, where's the earned income credit checklist? So the software allows you to go to credits and do that if you'd like to, or if you let the software do the work for you, by the time you get done with the summary, it will calculate and know that this person qualifies for EIC, and wants you to ask the questions, and based on your answers, it'll allow them to keep it or not. So I will go through now and answer all of the EIC checklist questions. So once you're finished with the EIC checklist, it determines if you are eligible for the credit. And you'll see here every answer or entered section is in green. Green is go, green is good, means you do qualify for EIC. Now if you did not qualify based on how you answered some questions, they would turn to red. So red is not good. So that means you need to go and edit something. Maybe you answered a question incorrectly. If you would like to add some notes, maybe this is a special situation, aunt or uncle was taking care of a niece or nephew, IRS probably wants to know, well, what's the deal? Why is that not with the parent? So that gives you an opportunity to send some notes directly to the IRS. I'll go ahead and continue to save at this point. We're pretty much done with the tax return. I can add some personal notes. I can see here, this is a private statement, so I can add notes just for myself or my staff, or again, I can send something to the IRS if I need to explain something. So I'll continue on to the e-file page now. Lets me know I'm ready to e-file this tax return. I can choose the federal return type. Now, since this is a demo, I don't have a bank product option selected. If you were doing bank products, it would allow you to choose which bank you work with and the type of bank product. But for this simple demo, I'm just going to do e-file paper check. And there is a refund and estimated check summary. So if you're doing bank products and you want to just quickly tell your customer, hey, here's how much money you're getting back minus my fees, you can simply click that button very quickly to tell them that. I'll scroll down, answer a little bit more questions. I'll go next to the fee section just to make sure all my fees are correct. Now you can set up fees in configuration setup, fee per form, general prep fee, and you do have an option to override the prepare fee if you'd like, up or down discount, charge somebody a little bit more. You can lock this though if you don't want anybody editing your fees. So everything looks good. Again, I can just continue to next to save and to progress. And now it takes me to the state return e-file page. I'll do another e-file paper check, select next. If they want to issue me as a third-party designee so I can speak to people on their behalf, I can. So I'll select next. And then here's where I'll put in the taxpayer ID for the driver's license for the state of Georgia. So once you save and continue past all that, it does warn you that you did not mark it as a bank product. So just in case you are offering bank products, you want to make sure you collect your fees up front if that particular return is not a bank product. So now at this point, if I'd like to go and print the return for my customer, I can email them a copy of the return. Or if they use the customer portal or mobile application, I can then, there's a button in here to go ahead and set up an electronic signature. But if they're right here next to me, there is a sign button. If I click sign, it brings me to a white page here where they can click down on the mouse and sign their name. This is a little difficult with the touchpad, but if you have a regular mouse, it's a lot easier. You can also use a Topaz signature pad. So just like signing out a credit card from a grocery store, same type of deal, pen and a pad, save the electronic signature. Now you as a tax preparer, I already have one on file. You can save one signature, never have to sign anything ever again. So now that I just roll through and verify everything looks good, once I'm done, I can save and transmit the return. Action. So if a taxpayer physically comes to you, hands you documents, with TaxSlayer Pro Web, we do have a cloud-based document management system. So on the top right here next to the login button where you see the customer's name, I can select that. It'll drop down. Then I will select Scan Documents. At this point, I can upload these documents to the cloud. And there's no limitation on the amount of files you have. So not only will you have a copy of the PDF of the tax return with signatures, any W-2, driver's license, social security cards, anything you need to retain your records, you can upload here. If you use the mobile app or client portal, they will automatically be imported right here. Again, under Scan Documents, you'll see a list of all of your documents. If they send you those electronically through the client portal or mobile app, you can simply come here, open the copy the W-2, for example. As you can tell, it does open a new tab. I can come back to the federal section, W-2 wage statement area. And if you have two monitors, or if I want to split screen, I can use them side by side and then enter the information and then send them the tax return for signature. Another unique part of ProWeb is to being able to manage multiple offices. So you have your own unique master login to manage multiple locations. So under Cody Setup here, this is my unique master login. I can scroll all the way down to Manage Offices, hit Select, and it'll show me a list of every location and even that I have. I can edit the information if I need to change something, or what most people use it for is to quickly access that particular office. Maybe a preparer needs help with a return, you need to set something up or change something within the parameters of the software itself. You can quickly and easily do that here. And to get back to the Manage Office menu, I can simply hit Return, and I'm right back to where I was. You can also create groups. So if you have several offices, maybe you have a manager who manages a few here and a separate manager who manages a few there. So if you want to have both of them have their own unique master login, just like this, you'll go under Manage Office Groups, Add Group. You can create them both their own unique groups with their own logins. That way they are not commingling their two offices. They can only see what you want them to see.